So Martin, do you want to kick things off?
Sure thing. First of all, welcome everyone to our webinar today on Skype for Business and increasing your revenue by giving customers enterprise voice through Office 365. My name is Martin Villeboy. I'll be moderating this today. I'm sorry for those of you who expected to hear and see Tara Seals. She had some last-minute changes in her travel plan, so I'll be stepping in and handling the moderating of the session. I'm editor-in-chief of Channel Vision, if I didn't mention that before. And just want to let you guys know that this
big shoes to fill, Martin. Big shoes to fill.
Big shoes to fill, undoubtedly. But I think I think I'm prepared to step up for it.
You got it.
Yeah. I just want to remind everybody also that the webinar is being recorded. We'll have it posted on our website, including all the materials. So if you can pop over to channelvision.com if you want to refer to it, or send it to your friends, or refer your friends after you're dazzled by Greg's presentation.
No pressure.
No pressure. For those of you who don't know, Greg Plum has been involved in technology, various technologies since the year 2000. Recognized as an industry expert in conferencing, collaboration, unified communications, including speaking at our own CVX, to do a shameless plug.
That's right.
And in 2016, he co-authored a book, Getting Started with Skype for Business Online. He's currently heading U.S. channel efforts for cloud solutions pioneer OBT Anywhere, which is empowering their partners to offer enterprise voice services for Office 365 and Skype for Business customers. Also, if you have any questions, I'll hold off until the very end, and we'll have a little question and answer session. But without further ado, I'll hand it over to you, Greg.
That's perfect, Martin. Thanks so much. And actually, if you do have questions, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll go ahead and man that after we get through the prepared content, because we do have quite a bit to cover. If there's time, we'll cover the questions. If not, then I will follow up with everybody that's submitted questions, just to make sure that the questions are answered and get them out to all. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and get into this. Now, the whole point of this presentation is to talk about enterprise voice and essentially really why it is a business model. We already know Microsoft is, with the release of Office 365, has delivered a subscription-based service that covers all these different, all the familiar apps. And then along with that is Skype for Business. So it's tightly integrated with everything. So if you think about where you live or where your customers live, on a regular basis, it's email. That's pretty much where you do everything. Email and your calendaring. So what's so nice about the way this works, Office 365 with Skype integrated, is you're able to even, believe it or not, send an IM right from an Excel spreadsheet. So all these different apps are so tightly integrated to make it much more than just a communications tool, more of a productivity tool. That's the entire message and the methodology behind it. So speaking of integration, what does it look like? So I've already mentioned that, kind of we live in Outlook. So if you look at the screen, you'll see there is or just listen to what we're covering right now, if you can't see the screen, there is in the ribbon, the ribbon goes across the top in Outlook. Once you've had this integrated, you'll have a meeting that's a Skype meeting. So when you go to schedule something, you can reply to an email with a meeting or schedule a new meeting. When you click on the Skype meeting button, it's going to automatically include a link to join the Skype meeting, and then we'll even include phone numbers. So today, you'll see some people dialed in here using some of you all were able to, though the link didn't work for whatever reason, you were able to dial in to get to the audio portion of the presentation. So there's two ways to actually access content. So with that said, it sounds like, okay, well, that's great. You've got Skype. It's your communication tool. You've got Office 365 with your Office apps. What's missing in all of this? Well, what's missing is the good old-fashioned phone call, PSTN. So that's your phone number. So Skype in its native form that comes embedded with Office 365 does have a communications piece, does have an audio piece. However, it is voice over IP. And that's where you can make your quote-unquote Skype to Skype call, which is great, right? That works when everybody within your organization, if you want to, let's say you're chatting and you need to escalate that conversation really quick to a phone call, very simply, with the click of a button. The problem is there's not a phone number in its native form associated with that. So what we're talking about is actually providing a regular phone number that connects into your Skype client to allow you to dial out to phone numbers, or people to dial a phone number and actually have it ring on your computer using your Skype client. So here's what it looks like. Enterprise Voice is what it's pretty much known as. Microsoft refers to it as Enterprise Voice. So it's basically business class voice service that's integrated with Skype. So in its native form, this first example is a screenshot of a version that is not voice enabled. So this is just in its native form. You'll notice there's right across the top here, you're going to see just a few buttons. When I click, I show you the next screen. This is obviously, it's a little, you don't mind the difference in color. It's a little bit of an updated version of Skype. It's the most recent version of Skype. But what you'll notice, that third button over the keypad, there is your voice. That's how you're able to actually dial a phone number. So you can click on that button to open up your soft client, your phone. Now, you might say, I don't want to use a soft client. I want to use a telephone, or my customers want to use a telephone. They're not ready to give up that piece of hardware. That's fine. There are plenty of vendors out there now that understand the value and the prevalence of Skype for Business. So they've come out with Skype optimized devices, so people can basically, it mirrors the experience on the handset as done on the computer. It's not required. It's actually an incremental expense, but if that's what people, if that's what customers want, that's certainly what we're willing to recommend and deliver. So with the keypad, basically that's where you're able to place your phone call, dial. When you click on it, this little keypad pops up, and you can use the keypad to dial, or you can just simply, in this little search field, dial the phone number, hit enter, and automatically it places your call, and your calls now look more like this than your classic phone call. So that's in a nutshell. That's basically, when somebody says Enterprise Voice, if you've not seen it before, that's essentially what it's referring to. Now, how is it done? So my company, OBT Anywhere, we have voice-enabled Skype for Business licenses. So we have our own server with Skype for Business licenses with SIP trunks into them. So essentially it has phone lines into the servers, and what we do is we sell subscription licenses to that, to our customers in a multi-tenant fashion. While we maintain Skype for Business, it integrates with Office 365. Exchange remains with Office 365, remains on the Microsoft servers, and then basically we tie the two of them together. So essentially what you're able to do is, using any of the, using Outlook like we just showed you, you can, once you go to make that phone call, or even if you go to IM, whatever you're doing, it's all going to be done from our servers that have been lit up, quote unquote lit up, with dial tone. So that's it in a nutshell. It's not overly complicated. It's all done in a license-based model. And what's nice about what we do, I need to give you an idea of what's a little bit different than the most. There's not a lot of players that are doing what we're doing. There's a ton, when I say a ton, I mean thousands of voice over IP providers, even UCAS providers, Unified Communications as a service provider, as a service. What's a little bit different, though, is what we're doing is we have our own Skype servers with integrated voice right into it. So there are only a handful that are actually doing that effectively in the market today. That's the approach we took. It's a more integrated, it's a more seamless customer experience. What we'll do is actually the customer that has anything, Office 365 license that has Skype for Business integrated, and that would include Essentials or Business Premium. So if they have that, we will add dial tone to that. They don't have to have the enterprise class licenses, E1, E3, or E5, and we are going to talk about E5, what that means, because that's kind of certainly the latest introduction into the market. So we will cover that as well. So, as sales guys, salespeople or IT or telecom people in the industry looking to help our customers, how do you identify the right opportunity? We've already covered the fact that there are dozens and dozens and dozens and dozens of options when it comes to voice over IP. Yes, customers are ready to move to the cloud. There's no question that's happening at unprecedented rates. But how do you identify something that's right for this opportunity? Basically, it's somebody that's already moved to Office 365, or they're contemplating. They're looking to actually take all of their compute and put it in the cloud, put it on Microsoft servers. Now, one thing to keep in mind is some of the licenses have already have the ability to be voice enabled, not all of them. So that's something you would want to contact us. We'd want to, work with the customer, and that's really done in a discovery call. That you don't do that in a real quick, session where you're just trying to fish just to look for opportunities. But essentially, anybody that's in that Office 365 space, those are the ones that we want to talk to. They're ready to take their legacy phone system, put it in the cloud, or they may already be in the cloud, yet they're looking to expand. There's a way we can do that as well. It doesn't have to be an all or none. We can add, if they want to increase their reach, we can do that on a license by license basis. So let's talk about E5, Office 365 E5. It's definitely getting a lot of press. I'd be shocked if you haven't heard it. Martin, I'm sure you're hearing plenty about E5, correct?
Yes, certainly.
And you're all over the place, so I know you're going to be definitely your ears are going to be burning as we talk about this stuff. So E5 was introduced. It's pretty it's relatively new. Introduced in December of 2015. And most recently, just within the last 30 days, Microsoft has added auto attendant and hunt groups. Now, these are the things, if you think about when you dial in, press 1 for sales, press 2 for HR, that type of functionality. Or if you dial into a number and it'll ring a group of numbers, or ring from one to the next. These are some enterprise class features that businesses demand. And up until 30 days ago, E5 did not allow that capability. So Microsoft is continuing to develop their offering to meet the demands of the enterprise, both small business as well as enterprise customers. With E5, basically when you buy that license, that is the highest level of license, that gives you the ability to add PSTN. Then what you're doing on top of that is buying a call plan. There's a domestic call plan and there's an international call plan. It's all hosted in Microsoft's public cloud, and the support is provided by a Microsoft call center. So that's in a nutshell what E5 is all about. So with OBT, okay, why do you need OBT, or what are the options available? Basically, what we're looking for our partners to identify, we already talked about how you identify an opportunity, and that's going to be somebody who has Office 365 and is looking to take it to the next level for their communications service, their full-blown telecom solution. What we're really looking for is just referring opportunities, just to identify those, bird dog them, and then bring us into the picture, and we can help identify what's the right option for them. And you know what? E5 might be the right option for them, and that's fine. We have our own hosted version, but then we also, if in a private cloud, but if we find that for that particular customer, E5 is the right solution, it's not a problem. We can help assist with that as well. A couple of other things that we do that's a little bit unique that you might care about as a telecom or an IT professional is the private label option. If you don't want to refer customers, you want to quote unquote own that customer for the life of the account, we do have private label options available as well, where it's wholesale, right? So I bill you at a buy price, and you turn around, mark it up, bill your customer to maintain that you're staying in front of your customer the whole time. Here's something that's actually pretty unique. BYO Telco, when I first came on board, I had no idea what that meant. So essentially, if a customer, at least I'm honest, right? A customer, if they have their own SIP, and I've told partners, some maintain their own SIP trunks, and they don't want to give that up. They want to maintain that, yet they're still looking for a way to leverage the Skype experience. We can do that. We can actually repoint your server, your SIP trunks to our servers, and then you're able to take that and not lose that voice traffic, and still leverage our server that we've purchased the license. So you're giving your customer, yourself or your customers, a familiar experience with the telecom that you already have, yet plugging into, and of course, not everything is going to work I guess seamlessly. There's going to be some requirements. That's again where the discovery process comes in. But if you're in that situation where you're like, you know what, I think Skype is cool. I think we want to leverage these things. However, my client, they are not letting go. They're holding onto their phone system. They've got a SIP phone system, and they are holding onto it with a death grip. Here's an opportunity where you could engage with us and see if it's the right opportunity for them. And then, of course, the professional services. I mean, we work with companies all over the world. One of the largest integrators, actually in India, uses us for the architecture. So when they have an opportunity for UC, they pull us in to actually assess the situation. And we're talking accounts these are not small accounts. These are accounts typically 1,000 seats or more, where we work on the architecture and we serve as that expert overlay when it comes to Skype for Business with Enterprise Voice. So we don't necessarily have to host it. It could be hosted elsewhere. It could be hosted on-prem, or it could be hosted on 365 with the Microsoft servers. Martin, does that all make sense? Am I losing you?
No, I think you're making absolute sense.
All right. Awesome. So
yeah,
what
I just want to jump in here as a quick note. I'm playing with the layouts here, and the speaker view, if everyone goes in the right upper corner, I would recommend looking at this in the speaker view. You can see your video as well as the slides. Just a quick note.
Excellent. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Good thing I shaved. Okay, so for what I try to do with these things is break it down, because I walk away from these sessions. I watch a lot of them, and I walk away thinking, okay, that's great, but how does that help me today? So here is kind of a recipe that I would say that we want to follow. You know, if you feel like this is something that your customers could benefit from, here's basically where you get started. You want to identify, and we've kind of covered this already, identify those that are already within your base, that are Office 365 customers. Or when somebody calls you and you're fielding a telecom opportunity, that's a question that should be on the tip of your tongue. When you're going through and you're having your own personal discovery call, assessing their needs, this is one of the things you should be asking, because it's going to open up a whole new opportunity that you may not have discovered otherwise. You know, I think a big thing to do is to just start reaching out to people, email, phone calls, and mentioning Office 365, letting them know that they've purchased it or they're looking to purchase it. We can leverage it. So you're consolidating their services. You're taking everything and putting it into this single license, if you will, to give them a comprehensive solution. The value of that is the integration. That's where, turning this into, again, not just a phone system. It's not just a phone call. It's meant to be a productivity tool. And I know that sounds like nice sales speak, but when people start using it and they're starting to, they're in their email and they're able to set up a meeting instantaneously and then be face to face with people, by video in a matter of seconds, that's when the light bulb goes off and you see the power of the tool. The other thing is
Right. It's not even just with Outlook too. I mean, the integration is with the other kind of Office applications as well. I mean, maybe you should give some examples there.
Yeah, you're right. So I briefly alluded to it. You can be in an Excel spreadsheet, and right within an Excel spreadsheet, you can send an IM to somebody. So you can pull somebody into a discussion, and then kick off a phone call. And then from there, if that's not enough, you want to escalate it to have a video call. So you're absolutely right. All those things. That's the beauty of 365. And I know the detractors. They're going to say, 365. We're a Google shop. Okay, if you're a Google shop, then that's fine. That's not our audience. Mm-hmm. But you're right. I mean, you're looking at, Word, PowerPoint, Excel, Publisher. These things all are in their own they're in a bubble, in a package. Mm-hmm. Now, what we've done is we're tying them together nicely with Skype. Now, Skype, we haven't even really talked about Skype itself as why it's so powerful and impactful. It has this feature, and most people are going to laugh at me because it's pretty basic, the presence. Presence is key. I've got a global team. I can find out with an instant when I look at my panel if somebody in Australia or somebody in Singapore is available, if they're online, and I can quickly send them an IM and get my answer. So that presence ties everything together, right. Regardless of where you are within your license, whichever app you're using. So, I mean, it's a really good point, Martin. It's not just about email. The reason I kind of focus on that is because that's where most people live. Most people don't live in spreadsheets. If they did, God help them. And
they're in mode to communicate there as well when they're in their email, right?
Exactly. That's exactly right. And, again, email, it's the email and the calendar function. So you're setting these things up and they go, you're back and forth between them all the time. And, this just is the glue that really holds them together, and you're able to have all of your communications kind of at your fingertips. That's a good point, though. Thanks for bringing that up. Then I guess moving to the end of this, essentially, once you think somebody might be a prospect, and once you start having that Office 365 discussion with them, whether they've already moved there or they're looking to move there, and telephony comes up as a concept, as a potential integration, that's when you pull us in. Right? We don't expect you to be the experts on this. Some people on the phone may be, and that's great. We can augment that. But if you're not, that's fine. That's when you pull us in. We have a discovery call. We sit down with the customer. We look at exactly what their situation is today, try to uncover any pain that they have. Chances are there's some kind of pain, be it bad experience, they're expanding and they can't afford to expand. They're looking to consolidate, or poor service. Maybe they've just, they moved to the cloud and they're just not happy with their service provider. So all of these things play into the decision. We're happy to help walk you through with that. So I know this is kind of, we'll call it crass, but why should you care? You have to care because your customers are asking questions. Now, if they're not asking you, that's the problem. They're asking somebody. Because this is coming, they're hearing it everywhere. It's everywhere you look as far as, Office 365, Skype for Business. And listen, there's others. There's Cisco Spark. I'm not so, deluded or delusional. I'm not so delusional to think that this is the only solution, but I will tell you it's certainly got the, greatest depth and penetration at the moment when it comes to, when you compare Microsoft to Cisco, Cisco still has a way, head start as far as communications goes. But as far as communication tools today and a subscription, you're seeing these two. Look at all of it. Look at Gartner, Wainhouse. You look at the market leaders, you're going to see these two, Microsoft and Cisco. Those are the guys going head to head. So picking one of them, I'm a big fan of, obviously, Microsoft because of the depth, because they've got the distribution, they've got the massive amounts of marketing dollars behind them. Not that Cisco doesn't, but if you're going to pick a horse, pick one and stick with it.
And Microsoft's really been playing pretty heavily in telecom. Since XP at least, right?
Yeah, and what's happened, with the change in leadership, you see everything's changed. And, 365 is Microsoft's fastest growing commercial product in history. So they definitely are all about this subscription model. So what we're doing is saying, treat it as, and look, when you try to sell 365, you're not going to make any money. There's just not. There's no money there. The money is treating it as that core, as that micro, as really an ecosystem, and then start bolting on other services. It could be call center. It could be different types of, billing solutions. It could be analytics. It could be telephony. So it's basically just the core of all these different types of services. But they're asking questions. You want to be in a position to answer the question and then even be more proactive and ask the question yourself as that trusted advisor. So why are they asking the question? What's in it for them? At the end of the day, they're ending up with it's simplification, right? It's integration, it's simplification, and ultimately cost savings. They can get rid of, look, right now we're using Skype for Business. We could be using GoToWebinar, or we could be using WebEx. When all things work right, there's no reason to have those. You're right from your Outlook. You click the link, boom, everybody's in the call. It's just a more seamless way to work, and these services are fully integrated into where you're already working. Right? Again, I know I'm sound like beating a dead horse, but you're working in your email. Well, let's kick off that conversation as opposed to, let's go open a browser. Okay, let's log into this other system. Why do that if you have something that's right at your fingertips and it's already there with presence built into it? So it's just a more seamless solution.
Yeah, I think it's worth mentioning, Greg, that like what we're all using right now is technically not a webinar platform. That's but that you all of a sudden you do have that capability to do a kind of a corporate training lessons or a sales training in a webinar style without requiring the webinar platform.
That's exactly right. And if you think about it, for the cost of, just talking really, really rough numbers, the cost of an Office 365 license plus voice enablement, you're going to be in the same ballpark as a WebEx license. Mm-hmm. That's pretty powerful when you look at it that way, because that WebEx license, that's an incremental cost to everything else you're doing, your compute, your telephony. It's incremental to all of that. So there is a way to absolutely simplify and have some cost savings. Now, is it meant to be a webinar tool? To your point, Martin, it's not.
Mm-hmm. However, it's functioning that way.
It can, and what you're going to find, and there are other services out there, and I've used them myself that quote unquote bolt onto these. That will be a registration system that can actually be used in tandem with Skype, where essentially at that point it really is comparable. Gotcha. Apples with when you're looking at compared to GoToMeeting, GoToWebinar, or WebEx, or Adobe, or any of them, Fuse, any of the other services. So that's a good point. I appreciate you bringing that one up because, yeah, we're definitely using a regular communication tool now for more of a mass communication tool as we speak. So what about you, the partner? Why is this important to you? Again, we've already talked about kind of being a more full service for your customer. You are that trusted resource. It's going to be making more valuable to them. There's no question. Two key things, though. Yes, you're going to increase your revenue. I mean, we need to figure out a way for you to increase your revenue because from the licensure itself, if you're selling 365 and you're becoming the partner of record, there's just not a ton of revenue in that. But what this is going to do is going to keep whom out of your customer? It's going to keep out the competition. The competition might be traditional players. It may be non-traditional players because now you look at those, look at Amazon, Google, Microsoft. These are all now, these guys never played in your sandbox. Now all of a sudden they're showing up and they got some big toys that they're showing up with. You need to be prepared to actually address that. So hence the elephant in the room. When looking at landscape and competitive landscape and what's going on in the industry, there's the acronym SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and help me out here. Oh my goodness, where's my T? My T is, I cannot believe I just did that. Say again? Threats. Yes, thank you. My goodness, look at that. Yeah, threats. See, I can't even say it. I try to block it out of my brain. Yeah, so the threats. So what we want to do here is we want to take that threat, all right, and that threat has a name, potentially. That threat, we want to turn into an opportunity, and we can. So what OBT has done, the position we're taking is, look, we may not be the best telephony solution for that particular user, but let's assess it. Bring them to the table. Let's look at them. If we say, hey, E5 is right for them, great. Then let's go ahead. Let's deploy E5. You can't ignore it. It is the elephant in the room. Those that choose to ignore it, in my opinion, are going to lose. So what we'd rather do is, what do you do in judo? You use your opponent's strength against them. So what we're trying to do here is very similar to that. And it's not really, look, Microsoft wins too. We're trying to help. It's a rising tide, and what we're doing is trying to play in that arena, not ignore it, try to augment it, and really, ultimately, it comes down to providing the best solution for that customer. That's how you keep them. It's about, in this changing landscape, not losing customers and being as full service as possible. Martin, does that make sense to you?
Yes, absolutely. What I'm wondering, or I'm assuming here, and I'd like to, kind of, I guess, ask you.
Sure.
It seems to me that the prime time to be talking to people is when they are about to upgrade or considering upgrading Office 365. Now, is that something that, I'm assuming that's something that OBT Anywhere can kind of help with even that upgrade, that time when they're going to upgrade, even outside of the enterprise voice, and then that's just kind of bolted on, can be sold as, hey, I'm going to help you with this too.
That's exactly right.
Is that right?
That's exactly right. It is. It's exactly right. So yeah, we are a Microsoft partner. I'm not looking. What we want to do is we want to help the partner channel. We want to help that community. So some of them, I don't want you to feel threatened like we're going to come in and steal that customer from you. Because if you want that business, if you want to be the partner of record, yet you need the expertise, that we can help with that. We can be the partner of record. We can bring these other solutions in, namely enterprise voice, to help you to be that full solution. But to your point, Martin, you're right. A lot of these customers at this point, they're asking a ton of questions. Many partners in the community, especially in the IT world, they are well versed in this. There's no question. They know what they're talking about. You may not need me. You may not need OBT Anywhere from a licensure standpoint for Office 365. We can help there for sure. But oftentimes, especially the IT folks, they're a little dare I say, afraid, have avoided voice because voice is high profile, and any loss, any packet loss or any kind of degrade service or anything at all is just magnified and everybody sees that there's a spotlight on it. So people are afraid, historically have been afraid. Now, the channel, Martin, as you know, the word in the channel, and it has been for the last, 5 years, is convergence. Mm-hmm. That's powered by the cloud. So now you've got your telephony, you've got your data, and it's all coming together. So the key here, you don't have to be that expert. if you want to be, that's great, but you don't have to be. There's all kinds of ways to really bring down the elephant. It could be partnering with somebody on the other channel. It could be bringing us in, on the telecom side, or it could be becoming that expert yourself, and then handling it all, and then billing for the service as well, without actually having to stand up your own servers and monitor and all that happy stuff.
Right. And the investment in that.
Oh, well, there's the initial investment for sure, but then there's the human capital investment. So most of our partners today have just decided, I'm going to focus on what I do well. And then my response is that, well, I want to focus on what I do well. And what we do well is voice, is enterprise voice. And we have other things, yes, we can absolutely augment. But in this particular instance, when we're talking Office 365, what we're doing is we're voice enabling it. So we have the voice experts to be able to do that, to help out with the assessment, the architecture, being able to deploy effectively, and then support. Now, one thing, actually, this isn't even part of the presentation, but one thing you're going to hear as a linchpin or people are afraid of or always talking about is quality of service, is analytics. Well, yeah, okay, I'm going to put my voice in the cloud. How in the world, what happens when something goes wrong? What do I do? So what we do is we actually have an integrated analytics tool to allow the end user and the partner to have a dashboard to be able to see that experience. What does it look like? Ensure, ongoing health once the communications is put into the cloud and once it's tied into Office 365. If there's a bobble, and there's always a bobble, don't let anybody tell you otherwise, there's always something. What we'll be able to do with that analytics tool, you'll be able to go in at a very individual, granular call level detail and find out where did the bobble occur. Was it at the network? Was it with Skype? Was it on the servers? Was it us? We'll be able to find out right away where that occurred to be able to alleviate, find the root cause, and put the measures in place to keep it from happening again. So that's a pretty important. Customers I'm talking to today, more and more are asking about quality monitoring, alerting, analytics, and that's whole part of the big data. The big data.
Can those analytics be used by the customer as kind of like a call detail report?
Yeah, it's good. That absolutely can. And not only that, we can even take it to the next level, and this is a whole other rabbit hole we could go down, but it could be used almost as a light call center manager. If you have different agents that you want to monitor their stats, it can even be used for that level of analytics, of performance behavior.
Now, you mentioned that kind of the fear of, I put it in the cloud and what's going to happen. But essentially that's partly what OBT Anywhere is going to provide, is that support and dealing with those issues. You're going to get a much better customer support, I'm assuming, than you are from, especially a smaller business, than you are from Microsoft.
Well, I didn't say that.
Yeah.
Yes, for sure. That's exactly what we do. We will be tier one, that level one level of service for the customer. So that's part of what you get, by putting your service with OBT Anywhere versus putting it in Microsoft's cloud, in their public cloud. Just goes without saying. That's a good point. Thanks for bringing that up. I'm glad you said it, and I didn't have to.
Okay. Also, before we kind of go to questions, folks, I was wondering if you had any kind of ballpark figures on, the 365 installed base, or kind of where it stands. For one thing, I think that a lot of folks have Skype for Business and don't even realize it because it comes often with Office 365. Yeah, I think that's one issue. But also, I was wondering if you had any numbers on the installed base.
So I do have some numbers I'll share, but I'm going to add the caveat that they may be a little bit dated, which means they're going to be low, but they're still impressive. So I want to address that, and I also want to talk about what you said about not knowing about it. And basically, it's a penetration. It's an awareness issue and a lack of penetration, whereas there's huge opportunity for partners. So there's two things. Those are both good points. The last number that I saw was 70 million licenses, Office 365 licenses deployed. Now, here's the number that I don't get. I try to get is, tell me of those, how many are actually utilizing Skype for Business?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. And I've asked even Microsoft. I was at an event and somebody, the Skype product manager, I believe, global product manager, was on stage, and I asked the question, what's the penetration on Skype? And they didn't know or they didn't want to share. I'm not sure.
Right.
But regardless, I mean, there's definitely opportunity there. I mean, if you just talk to your customers, you're going to see the reason they usually move to 365 is not to have PowerPoint in the cloud. It's for their email, right? It's for Exchange. It's to take it off-prem, put it in the cloud. That is the impetus. But there's so much more to it. So that's the whole discussion that I feel people should be having, that partners should be having, that adds the value and then ultimately adds to the stickiness of the customer and the partner's revenue.
Well, I'm also wondering how many have not upgraded. I mean, like how many Microsoft users are still on older platforms? So kind of what's the opportunity to, for that upgrade sell? Because everybody's going to do it eventually. Well, not everybody, but the vast majority of Microsoft users are going to be there eventually.
Well, what ultimately happens is things, support. Microsoft is very powerful, and when they end of life something, you're forced in a situation to make a move. Mm-hmm. I don't know the stat on that. I can tell you, even if we didn't talk about those that are still converting, if we're talking about those that have already converted, it is a massive, massive opportunity.
Right.
So, essentially, you don't need to worry about that. If you take it down to your day-to-day, when we get off the phone here and you go and you're talking to your next customer, the question is, well, do you have Office 365? If they ask you about a phone system, if they want to upgrade or if they want to move from on-prem to the cloud, part of that discussion should be about 365. And then now you have another opportunity to give them something that's completely integrated. And again, really, really sticky customer. So huge opportunity, but I can't quantify that one for you, Martin. That's a very good question.
Right.
So, this is the question I think everyone's asking, and this is really the nirvana, right? And we never ever achieve this 100% of the time. But the point is, what if the technology that's laid out in front of you is you don't even notice it? You forget to say, oh, I need to do this, I need to do this. You just do what you normally do, and it works, in your day-to-day. And this is how I eat my own dog food. I use this. I'd be dead in the water without it. Where I'm on IMs every single day with people all over the world. If we're not communicating properly, if something's being lost in translation, and that tends to happen when you're working overseas, then, real quick, let's have a phone call. Or you know what? Let's connect by video. So these are the types of things that you start to do without even thinking about it. That's the goal. And that's really that's nirvana. Mm-hmm. So that's our solution to this. The goal for us is to take Skype, which is integrated with many of these licenses, replace it with our Skype, our hosted private cloud Skype with voice enablement, with dial tone, and then give that to the customer. And then you, as the partner, you're able to offer this full-blown solution and increase your revenue while, again, being more full service and keeping the competition out of your keep the fox out of the hen house. So, I'm going to be wrapping up here in just a minute. But let's talk about what are your action items. So we can fast track something. If you have something when you hang up here, basically what we'd want you to do is just identify an opportunity. These are somebody that, again, 365 already, moving to 365, not happy with their phone service, on-prem or their cloud, yet they're looking for something a little bit more integrated. They might be using one of the big boys in the space, right? Hosted, you know the names, you know who they all are. But maybe they're wanting something that's more integrated with their 365 client. That's when you really should think OBT. And you should think about me, and it's where we step in to help. We would set up once you identify this prospect, we would set up the joint discovery call. Those calls typically consist of you, your customer, me, and depending on the complexity, we may even pull in a solutions consultant or a sales engineer on my side, just to make sure we're handling, getting everything down and making really good use of the customer's time, so we can come back to them with the optimal solution. And again, that optimal solution might be Office 365 E5, putting it in the Microsoft Cloud. That's fine. The alternative, it may be OBT, in the private cloud. What we would do is at that point, we demo the service, we come up with a proof of concept, make them understand or let them demonstrate how that's going to help them in their day-to-day. And then at that point, once we bring them on as a customer, then you're able to be commissioned on that. And that commission could be, if we're hosting it and we have licenses, you're going to get commissioned on that. Or if it's just the professional services, if they decided, you know what, I need your expertise, but I don't need you to house it for me. I don't need you to host it. That's fine. Then you'd be commissioned on the Office 365 professional services piece. Is that all, Martin? Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
All right, good. It's a little bit of a different approach. I'm not saying it's my way or the highway, because my way may not be the best way for everybody out there with Office 365. We're trying to give them basically a fair shake at everything, let them see everything, and then make the determination, help them understand, come to the best solution for them, and then help them implement it. So that is it for my prepared content, and these are my credentials or my contact info. So I'm actually getting a little bit of voices, a little bit of noise in there. Does anybody have a question?
That's a problem.
Let's see. I'm going to flip over.
And just a quick note here for anyone who's in the webinar online. There's the conversation tab on the left. If you have any questions, you're more than welcome to type any questions in there. Otherwise, if you're not muted, then you can ask it. I think now would be a good time.
Thank you, Mickey.
Yeah.
All right. So I went ahead and muted the line. So please feel free to. And Mickey, I will unmute you.
Excellent.
Right. So now you can speak. Everybody else, yes, please feel free to drop a question in the conversation. Now, here's the other thing. Let's see. I'm not sure who is in. Yeah, we've got several that are in online. So the online link, if it was disabled or not working properly, it appears to be working now, which is great.
So, Greg, does OBT provide any kind of sales or like channel partner support or training?
Yes, absolutely. And that's exactly where I come into play. So we've been around, I'll give you a little bit of background. We've been around since 1999. Certainly, with that time frame, I don't think it's too bold to say that we were a pioneer in the cloud world. I think it was even before it was called cloud. Mm-hmm. And my job is really to help grow the U.S. efforts. Headquartered in Australia. We are expanding, and one of the things that we do that's a little bit unique, which I didn't talk about before, is we can get involved with a multinational deployment. We have servers all over the world. We have them in Singapore, Ireland, Australia, and the U.S. And my goal is to work with our partners here in the U.S. and abroad, if need be, just to help them identify the opportunity. Well, of course, we do the education first to give you a comfort level. But again, I'm not asking for people to be an expert in this. It's taken us years to get to this level.
That's a good point.
Yeah, yes, we'll certainly help support along the way. But we've got big shoulders, and we're willing to bear a lot of this weight. We want to work with the partners.
And you mentioned the international footprint. I'm assuming that kind of the multinational is, or someone who has, factories over, works with factories overseas, or commissions them. The international play here is huge. I would think on the savings end at least.
It is because like I said, we're an international company, and I use it on a day-to-day basis. I can see when somebody's available. My communication costs are nil, right? Because we're all on the same network. And then you also have, we didn't even talk about, the mobile impact, the mobile client for Skype for Business. So it's very easy to communicate with a global workforce. And the more global you are, the more savings potential there is. Absolutely. There's no question.
Yeah, the mobile might be a whole other webinar, huh? Because I think that's probably, it is worth mentioning. And it is kind of key here, to all we're talking about here.
It is. And there's two sides to this. You've got the old school folks that really want to have that phone on their desk. Okay, mm-hmm. That's fine. We can handle that. We can work with them. But then you also have those that never sit at a desk. They're always on the go. With those guys, it's real simple. You've got, see if you can see this. I don't know if you can see it or not, but you've got your Skype client running, and I can see when people are available. So I've got, I can see right here if people are available, not available, online, offline, whatever, and with a simple click, I can get a hold of them. And again, this is included. That communication piece is included. It doesn't cost anything.
And I think it's, again, I want to reiterate, I think the point that you made, that the default is obviously the soft client, but user behavior does not have to change. User behavior can stay the same, and we all know how difficult it can be to get users to change.
Yeah, you're right. And you're absolutely right. And here's the cool thing about this. It's actually very granular. So you could have, and I've worked with companies, very large companies, with thousands of users, where you've got the executive suite. They are not giving up their phone. And then you've got the receptionist desk, those where all these calls are coming in to the guy or gal up front, and they don't want to work with a soft client. So there are certainly desk phones that'll accomplish the same thing to help them, really take advantage of the technology without having to change their behavior. That's a really good point. However, those that are ready to change their behavior, and this is lights out service. It's just the way to actually take it to the next level, save on their communication costs, and have a more integrated solution.
So perfect for the company that has baby boomers, Generation X, and millennials, which is
exactly right.
Increasingly everyone.
Yes, they are. Absolutely.
Very good, Greg. I think it's probably about time to wrap this up. Okay. Unless you have one last point to make.
No, well, just the fact that I want to thank everybody for taking the time. We had a really good registration, and this is pretty typical. We get tons of registrants, and then you get about a fraction of them showing up. So thank you all for taking the time to join us, which is great. So it tells us that it's important. You have my contact information. I would say, let me pull that up there again. You seeing that now?
Yes.
All right, great. Feel free to call me, email me, let me know how we can help out. We've been doing this for a long time, and this is personally my passion. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Skype for Business. I can't think of a better way to enable an enterprise, either small business, micro business, on up to the large enterprise, to enable all of them with their communication needs. And I've bet my career on it.
Very good, very good. Thank you, Greg. Also, I want to remind everyone that the webinar and the presentation will be available on channelvisionmag.com. Just give us a little bit of time to post that up. Also, you can catch Greg in a series he's writing for Channel Vision Magazine. We've had the first installment in the past issue, and we're looking forward to Greg's insight moving forward for the next few issues. So feel free, so please grab your Channel Vision and read that. And otherwise, thanks to OBT. And thank you, Greg.
All right, Martin, thank you. Mickey, thank you very much. And we'll talk to you all soon. All right, take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.